This is a little bit like fintech speed dating. My first time here, so I'm your last date, I guess. Is that how it works? Why is there a big picture of me? So since we're all friends, first of all, a confession. I have to confess something. I'm a little bit of a, is it a wolf in sheep's clothing or am I a sheep in wolf's clothing? I can never remember that. Thank you. Well, let's go with that one. And what I mean by that is my title is actually Chief Marketing Officer of Economical Mutual Insurance Company, right? And why that's important to this story is that we're actually 145-year-old this year, 145-year-old mutual insurance company selling home and auto across Canada, mutual based in Waterloo, right? So you're probably thinking, I'm the last guy who has any business talking about anything fintech, technology, or disruption, which is going to be the topic of my conversation today, right? But I think the moral of the story is that whether you're a startup who's just looking to launch a product, or you're an established player, you're a big bank, you're a big insurance company like us, we have 1 million customers, 2 billion in revenue on our traditional business, it's still possible to innovate, and more importantly, possible to disrupt, right? So my talk is called A Recipe for Disruption. So why disruption? First of all, I hate that word. I absolutely hate it. It bores me to tears because everybody uses it. It's hyped up. You know, if you look at sort of Google Trends, like it's a word that goes up and down with various technology trends. But in the fintech, insurtech, fill in the blank tech space, this word comes up often. And I really get annoyed with it because I struggle with the idea because many people, I think, get it wrong. They think they're doing something disruptive, and maybe it's innovative, but rarely it is. So me being a marketing guy, I'm always trying to distill things and simplify it. I mean, you know, I need a simple definition of what disruption means, right? In this context or any other. And this is based not only just on my experience working at a big company launching a new venture like Sonnet Insurance, or in my past working at startups. I started my career, I was employee number 12, small startup. We raised 2 rounds of capital with VCs, and the company was eventually sold to Cisco. Awesome. And it's interesting, fast forward, you know, a couple of decades later, I won't reveal my age, but the lessons we learned launching a product like Sonnet, or an experience like Sonnet, you know, was pretty much analogous to my experience early days as a startup. So the alternative title for my talk could actually be, how do you do the elevator pitch to the VC on one slide? And that's what I'm going to talk to. So let's go. Everyone starts here, right? Fintech, right? This is maybe sacrilegious, but everyone starts with technology. And I'm of the opinion that should be the last thing you talk about. And I'll explain why later. Technology is important. This is a fintech discussion, and obviously I've been in the marketing technology space most of my career. It is important, but you should never start there if you're going to talk about doing something truly disruptive, right? Or even if it's innovative, never mind disruptive. Where you should start is there, right? And I'll go into more detail on each of these, but start there, right? Start with an understanding of what that means to whatever product, service, idea you're trying to launch, and if it's disruptive, it has to meet that criteria. Business model. I have a business degree. Many people here have a business degree. Or MBA. Business model. What's the business model? And is it truly new, right? Is it truly new? That's the third ingredient. So it's a pretty simple recipe. I said I was a simple guy. I'm a marketing guy. 3 ingredients: technology, customer needs, business model. So let me kind of go into a little bit more detail. The key word here is unmet. A number of times I've heard, or I've looked at research that says, oh, you know, customers need this. You know, and I think it was Ali who said, ask why 5 times. Ask why, right? If you really want to sort of launch something disruptive or innovative, ask yourself why 5 times. Try to get to the root of that unmet need, right? Steve Jobs is the best example of that. He was a master. He was a master of understanding what people wanted before they knew they wanted, right? That's the old line with him. So getting to that unmet need, sometimes you have to really dig deep and convince people, yes, you actually need this. This could make a difference in whatever it is you're trying to do with your product or service, right? Market research. The number of times I've seen, Hey, this is $1 billion market. We have data that proves it. I've done research and we sized the market. Yeah. Don't always lean on market research, because I'll tell you, somebody who's spent years in both B2B and B2C businesses, what people say in surveys or in focus groups or any other kind of market research doesn't always equate to what they do, right? So market research sometimes is good in terms of validating your thinking, but I wouldn't lean into it too much. If it's particularly new or innovative or on the edge of innovation, you likely won't get a lot of meaningful information from research. And the last piece, this is really going to be weird for a bunch of technology folks to talk about emotions, but when I look at consumer behavior and what motivates purchase behavior, and when I say consumer, I should say customer, B2B or B2C does not matter, what motivates somebody to actually buy your product, your service, whatever that is. And there's been global research, millions of people around the world, B2B, B2C, that suggests that most often emotions drive a purchase decision more so than rational. So if you're talking about speeds and feeds, be careful there, right? There's research that shows management consulting services are more driven by emotional, right, motivations than rational. We're talking management consultants. Think about that. And it scores higher than cars. Everybody thinks, oh, people buy cars on emotion, right? So think about that. Unmet customer needs, understand that. The second piece is new business model. So, I mean, we all love acronyms. We're technology people, right? So I made one up. I Googled it, doesn't exist, I made it up. I'm going to credit myself for that. What business are you in? Is that good? Oh, I'm in the food delivery business, I'm in this. What business are you really in? So Uber is in the logistics business, right? Coca-Cola is in the beverage marketing business. They don't actually manufacture a lot of stuff, right, Coke? So what business are you in? If you're going to build a new business model, really think about what business you're actually in, right? And as I said earlier, is it really new? A new way to distribute something, a new way to access something, a new flip on the old, same old, same old. Is it really new? So somebody gave me the example. We were talking about some of these new meal delivery services. I happen to use one. I think it's great. They package up, ingredients. They package up instructions on how to cook it and deliver it to your door. It's fantastic. Somebody said, oh, there's this new one coming out that's even better. They deliver recipe cards to your house every week so you can, figure out kind of what you're going to meal plan with for your family. I'm like, they deliver recipe cards? Isn't that called a cookbook? Right? That's not a new business model, a recipe card. So is it really new? Challenging. Now, it doesn't need to be new. No, obviously not, right? In the case of Sonnet, in our world, we didn't really reinvent insurance. We just created a new way to distribute it. It's a new channel. So, okay, it's not radically new, but it's newish. And the third piece is marketplace economics, right? Understand the dynamics of what drives marketplace behavior, right? So Uber needs drivers, Airbnb needs inventory, right? So obviously their business model has to account for that. And is there enough supply and demand in the ecosystem of whatever it is you're trying to do? Sell to banks, sell to customers to really drive that new business or new business model. And the last piece, last but not least important, technology. So obviously this is a technology conversation. Enabling technology is important. It's a catalyst. Again, a number of times I've been pitched, I've seen companies pitch us on new, fintech insurance stuff to talk about, hey, technology, like that's the thing that it solves is all this, that, and the other thing, security, but think about it as a catalyst. It should be driving something. It's the thing that enables those unmet customer needs and creates an ability to deliver a new business model, right? It's that thing that catalyzes whatever it is you're trying to solve for. It's a catalyst. It's not the solution in of itself. Rarely should it ever be the solution. In fact, if you go look at an Uber, they actually there was nothing really proprietary in their technology. In the case of Sonnet, we've been in the press called a disruptor in the category. There's, I will tell you 100%, not one set of unique kind of technologies in our stack. It's all off-the-shelf stuff. But it's a catalyst. That's how we drove it. Which gets to the second point. It doesn't need to be proprietary. So whether it's proprietary, off-the-shelf, or open source, doesn't matter if it drives whatever it is you're trying to do. Think about what it is that is your competitive advantage. If data is your competitive advantage, as we heard previously, then whatever, the technology shouldn't be the focus, right? Pick whatever's going to get you to market easiest and easiest to evolve and maintain, right? So if it's a competitive advantage, you've really created that unique widget that nobody can replicate, that crypto something or other, okay, maybe that needs to be proprietary. But in a lot of cases, it doesn't need to be. And the last point is, can it scale? When we talk about scale, somebody mentioned that in an earlier talk. When we talk about scale, it's not about scale from a technology point of view. It can handle billions of transactions per second. Scale from a product perspective. I think it was Ali that was talking about it. So if it's technology, it's going to have a roadmap and evolution. And many times, particularly if you're a startup, you may get it wrong in the beginning. You think you are in the business of renting air mattresses, when you're actually in the business of connecting people who want to rent somebody's house on a vacation in a foreign destination, which is the story of Airbnb, right? But their technology, their platform was designed in a way, the business model, everything else was designed in a way that it could scale to introduce different variations of that product, sometimes different products. So the moral of the story is true disruption, and even if it's not disruption, it's one level down, it's just true innovation. It happens when those three things intersect. And the little Venn diagram, for those of you who are, mathematicians, yes, that intersection, area in the middle of that Venn is small because it's rare that you get to that place. Do you need all three? No. You have 2 or 3? Yeah, you'll do okay. If you have all 3, great. If you're pitching a VC and you have the best, greatest of whatever it is you're doing, you better be able to talk to all 3. And the last point before we take questions is they don't all need to be equally important. You've come up with an idea that meets some unmet customer need that is through the roof. Yeah, technology is kind of important. Yeah, not really a new business model, whatever. In the case of Sonnet, that's what it would look like for us. Technology is important. It's critical. It drives everything. But it's not the end-all be-all because there's nothing proprietary there. If we sold the company, that's not what would, that's not the value in the business. It's that, for us, the fact that we tapped into an unmet customer need. So think about that. Thank you very much. Questions?
Questions?
Thanks. Quick question. So how would you describe Sonnet's unmet customer need?
Well, we did lots of research. I think from our perspective, it's really, we try to tackle 2 things, right? There's a frustration with buying insurance, right? It's cumbersome. And there's a mystery to doing it, right? So unpacking that for us, it wasn't just making it digital and 100% online. It was about simplifying the process of buying it and understanding it. And then the second piece was really around treating customers in a different way, right? And in the insurance space, and I will say this, apologies to my financial services friends here, we've done a bad job historically compared to other industries of really driving customer value in a way that people appreciate. The story I always tell, Sarah, one of my colleagues, reminds me that everyone loves is, I get better treatment buying a Starbucks coffee for $5 or a latte than I do from my insurance company that I paid premiums for 7 years with, right? So it's those 2 things actually that we try to unpack and then use technology to deliver on that promise. Great question. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Hi, my name is Aparna. I work in an industry where we talk a lot about transformation instead of innovation. And the word disruption is not as frequently used. So in this context, for me, this whole evening has been an eye-opener. I come from a very different industry. How do you take transformation versus innovation? What's your thought about it?
Well, I guess my question is, when we started the journey for Sonnet, we talked about it as transformation, and we were doing transformation, right? It's very common for financial services institutions. My question would be, what are you transforming, right? And why? Right, so if this is, you're just trying to improve productivity and you're, improving processes, I don't know if that's innovation, that's just sort of, modernizing your business, as I call it. And I think you have to understand whether that's and that's fine. There's lots of technology initiatives we have in our company that's all about just modernizing our ability to do business more efficiently and all that kind of stuff. Is it innovation? No, it's the cost of doing business, right? Can transformation be innovative? Yes. In the case of Sonnet, the transformational part for us that was innovative, maybe disruptive, is we automated underwriting, right? In the past, a human being had to touch the underwriting process. You couldn't issue a policy unless a human being reviewed it, an underwriter, to some degree, right? it's fully 100% automated. No human being touches that policy, right? That risk assessment. So that to us is both transformational and innovative, right? Intentionally, driven by a whole bunch of things, data analytics, technology. It's a good question.
All right, last question of the evening. We have one. Oh, yep.
Thank you. Hi. You created a startup within a big insurance company,
Yes.
as I understood. How did you keep the startup innovation within a big organization that has legacy system, processes, etc.?
Excellent question. We behaved like a true startup. We said, clean the slate. We started with nothing. We literally started with a space. We opened a facility. We hired some people. We brought some of the best and most talented folks from our legacy organization. And we said, if you could start from ground zero, a blank sheet of paper, and if we asked you to reimagine insurance for customers, what would that look like? And no boundaries. Now, we're fortunate because we're well-capitalized, big organizations. A startup might not have the luxury to do it in the same way that we did it, but that's the way we did it. We said, let's behave like a startup. Now, the interesting side effect of that is when you behave like a startup, you start thinking differently because you're like, okay, I have nothing. I have no customer data. I have no technology. I have nothing. Like, where do I go? And it forces people to be very creative in how they solve those problems, right? And all the things as people start to, I call it the effect of gravity, right? People start to think about the billing process. Well, how we used to do it in the, no, there's no use to do it. There's no, start from, if you have to redo it, forget it. There's no boundaries, there's no handcuffs. How would you do it? Oh, okay, well maybe we'll change how we manage this, that, or the other. And it forces people to rethink. Now, not everything's always possible, right? We're in a regulated business, but as much as we could, we push the envelope. So it's a bit of like empowering people to really think differently and not be bound by stuff, and creating a culture that really celebrates that. Now, do we have legacy systems? Yes, we have, all of our GL still sits in massive, databases at head office. So eventually we did have to connect it back to the parent company, if you will, but that was the last mile, right? Outside of that, we, if you think about those three circles, thinking about customer needs, technology, we need to do that to make it work well, and a business model that supports it. That was the focus. And then, okay, now how do we enable it within a broader company? Not easy to do, not easy to do.